Good morning, everyone. How do you think an emergency alert that goes out province-wide gets approved? I have no idea. I really don't know. But one thing that makes me think that's interesting, or makes my eyebrows go up, is that the mayor of Pickering, where the nuclear alert was sent out for, 10-kilometer radius of the Pickering nuclear power plant, the mayor of Pickering knew at roughly the same time we all knew. He got the same alert. And he says that the emergency response teams and the disaster response teams, have you guys seen Parks and Rec? Like where they have the emergency response team afternoon and they go through an emergency response. It's kind of like that. That's the reality of the world, right? You have to practice these things and it's like a fire drill. But if nothing happened, that was this. But the fact is, the mayor of Pickering didn't know about this until we all knew. And that seems just wild, doesn't it? You'd think somebody would make a call and say, hey, we've detected these radioactive these elevated signs or whatever. Because it wasn't just the one alert. It wasn't just the nuclear alert, the Pickering station alert. There were hazardous radioactive materials cited alerts sent for Niagara-on-the-Lake and a couple other places in the Niagara region that I saw on Twitter. And so those things all together, who knows? And it goes to confidence in our systems, right? In one situation, you would think, okay, maybe somebody pushed the wrong button. But in these multiple situations, how are these alerts getting approved to go public-wide? Public dispersal, whatever you want to call it, broadcast everywhere, right? 15 million people live in Ontario, roughly, right? It's a lot of people to be woken up on a Sunday morning for a nuclear alert. It's nothing to see here, total accident. And the mayor doesn't know? Here we go. And sorry about the audio on this. He's a little quiet, but link is in the description.
When were you first alerted to what happened this morning?
About 7:30 this morning, the alarm went off, and immediately all of the emergency measures locally kicked into work. Then we were notified that in fact it was a false alarm, and we are calling for a full investigation to understand how and why that would occur, and of course to put measures in place to ensure it doesn't happen again.
So they're calling for a full investigation. They don't want this to happen again, but still, he was made aware when the alarm went off, just like everyone else. And so Justin Trudeau, or the fifth member of KISS, has weighed in. No, he hasn't. I just wanted to show you this picture. Here's the source. But is it so? That's strange and concerning. The fact that with a nuclear reactor, and Canada is not Soviet Russia. Canada is not Japan, even with a nuclear reactor built on the coast without adequate flood prevention technology, whatever. But every situation is different, and each individual situation is its own unique situation. Is there a way, possibly, that a Canadian reactor could be in a situation where a public notification is required? Sure, why not, right? Like there's historical precedent for such things happening, right? And nobody expected Chernobyl, nobody expected Fukushima, nobody expected these things to happen. 3 Mile Island, right? Maybe 3 Mile Island they expected, but I think it's the biggest nuclear disaster on U.S. soil. But regardless, nobody's planning like, oh yeah, in 2019 we'll do this one, and 2024 we'll do this one. No, right? Like accidents happen, and if there was an accident, I'd rather know about it, and I'd rather have a robust process in place that doesn't have the mayor of the city affected behind working against whatever, right? Working in a way that is not beneficial in the fastest possible way, right? Why was he made aware by the same process that the general public was made aware? It just seems weird, right? And that's even weirder. Weird. Okay, this is another strange thing. I don't know what MLF is. I looked it up and it was Major League Fishing that came up. So I don't think that's what he meant. Who knows? Here's the CEO of McCain Foods. Now, I'm going to give you a little tiny bit of history on McCain Foods. Bill Morneau, who is on the Paradise Papers, the Panama Papers, and is married to the heiress of the McCain dynasty, the McCain fortune, right? He's married to, I believe her name is Meghan McCain. And so that puts him firmly in the Maple Leaf Foods family. Like, directly in the family. So this is a 2016 article, February 2016, right after the Liberals won election and he was just made finance minister. And it's the National Post saying conflict of interest screen enforced on Bill Morneau to keep him from participating in family business. And the family business they're talking about is Chappelle Morneau, Morneau Chappelle, the pension and human resources management firm founded by Bill's Morneau's dad, right? But here's the linchpin. Dawson, who's the ethics commissioner, didn't apply any other special rules on Bill Morneau related to the personal holdings of his wife, Nancy, who's a member of the New Brunswick's powerful McCain family. And let's just go back in time a little bit. This is November 30th, 2018, okay? And here is Financial Post reporting, he's no chicken. Michael McCain bets $700 million on his company's future, but he's one of few. And in the same week, they're closing a couple of plants and opening a big one in London. So Maple Leaf Foods to build a new $660 million London plant, shutter 3 others in Ontario, right? This is November 26th, the same week. So they're funneling the operations to a single place, right? So it's a reduction of about 300 people lost their jobs. And here is Sison, I think Sison News. And it says the government of Canada invests in state-of-the-art poultry facility in Ontario. Isn't that interesting? November 26, 2018. And it says, today the Honorable Lawrence Macaulay, Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, on behalf of the Honorable Navdeep Bains, Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development, announced a $20 million investment in Maple Leaf Foods, a leading Canadian producer of packaged meats. Well, isn't that wild? And let's go back to what the CEO of McCain Foods said yesterday on Twitter. He says, quote, I'm Michael McCain, CEO of Maple Leaf Foods, and these are my personal reflections. I am very angry, and time isn't making me less angry. A MLF colleague of mine, it's not Major League Fishing, lost his wife and family to a needless, irresponsible series of events in Iran. U.S. government leaders, unconstrained by checks and balances, concocted an ill-conceived plan to divert focus from political woes. The world knows Iran is a dangerous state, but the world found a path to contain it. Not perfect, but by most accounts, it was the right direction. A narcissist in Washington tears world accomplishments apart, destabilizes region. U.S. now unwelcome everywhere in the area, including Iraq, tensions escalating to feverish pitch, taking out despicable military leader terrorist. There are 100 like him standing next in line. The collateral damage of this irresponsible, dangerous, ill-conceived behavior. 63 Canadians needlessly lost their lives in the crossfire, including the family of one of my MLF colleagues, his wife plus 11-year-old son. We are mourning, and I am livid. Michael McCain. You know how many people died in 2012 or 28 maybe? I thought it was 2012, but it looks like this was published in 2008. When there was a Listeria outbreak, 22 people died. Mr. McCain didn't step down from the CEO position. He was in the CEO position, right? Maple Leaf Foods has agreed to pay victims. This is published December 18th, 2008, updated April 27, 2018. Maple Leaf Foods has agreed to pay victims of a devastating Listeria outbreak linked to its cold cuts as much as $27 million to settle a series of proposed class action lawsuits, the company and lawyers announced Thursday. The outbreak claimed 20 lives nationwide and was linked to Listeria-contaminated machinery at one of the company's plants in Toronto. Lawyers estimate about 5,000 people were affected, either directly or indirectly. Huh. Isn't that interesting? Right? 63 families, 5,000 people, right? I wonder how this is Donald Trump's fault. I asked him how it was Donald Trump's fault. Because, I mean, if everything's Donald Trump's fault, Listeria in Maple Leaf Foods meats must have also been Donald Trump's fault. So this is serious. This is the CEO of a company that's getting government funding for its facilities, doubling down and backing up the government, saying that these are his private thoughts, my own personal reflections. My own personal reflections as I reflect on the $28 million given to me by Navdeep Bains and Lawrence Macaulay. Right? Isn't that nice? I mean, if I had a brother-in-law who was the finance minister in a company like that, maybe I'd shed 300 jobs, consolidate a plant into a plant that the government spend $30 million on, $28 million on. Maybe I would. Who knows? If I knew what the government was going to do. And I mean, would the finance minister do that? Well, there's no screen involved. There's no conflict of interest screen. He's unencumbered. He can do whatever he wants, which is the hallmark of our Liberal government. They do whatever they want, right? No problems. You got $28 million? There you go. $28 million, buddy. See you Thanksgiving in October. Moving on to Donald Trump's fault. Donald Trump is tweeting in Farsi. Yesterday I said Persian, and I realize now the reason I said Persian is because there was a report saying this is the most popular Persian tweet ever, and I guess it's describing the region. So I apologize. The language is Farsi, and thank you for correcting me. I do appreciate being corrected, and I usually try to mention it when I'm wrong about something, so I appreciate that. So here's Trump's tweet, and here's the translation. It says, "To the leaders of Iran, do not kill your protesters. Thousands have already been killed or imprisoned by you, and the world is watching. More importantly, the USA is watching. Turn your internet back on and let reporters roam free. Stop the killing of your great Iranian people." And there's various footage. I was actually collecting the footage of this, and the responses to this tweet have two of the ones that were being bandied about. So links are in the description. Just scroll down. But it looks like the Iranians are shooting on their own citizens at this point in time, after shooting down a plane full of their own citizens on the way to Ukraine. Right, here's another one. I think this is the top one here, but it doesn't matter. And a couple of Canadian stories to bring us home. This is just interesting. This was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. Anti-Trudeau billboards advertising Alberta Wexit campaign caused an uproar, and I believe they've pulled these down, and they're going to reevaluate their advertising buying standards, right? Which is the same thing that happened when somebody put up the billboards across Canada that were pro stopping of the mass migration. It named mass migration and said, this is a bad plan. And then everybody said, that's racist. It's not racist. Not racist. And the last story for this morning, National Post is saying the Tories have set stricter rules for candidates entering the race to avoid overcrowding like last time. Lisa Raitt is one of the people who are coordinating this. They've made it a $300,000 entry fee with $100,000 of that's refundable. You get that back if you follow the rules. You need 3,000 endorsements from party members spread across 30 ridings. So that's a lot of signatures. That's a lot of support to get. Certainly not impossible, but it's a lot of money, right? The race formally begins on Monday. The deadline for entry is February 27th, by when candidates must submit $25,000 fee installment and the first 1,000 party member signatures. So the race for a new Conservative leader is underway. And well, if you go by the last Conservative leadership race, they've already decided who they want, and they're just trying to figure out how to make the ballots say that. Right? I mean, that's what they did last time. Ridiculous. So, how is it Trump's fault? And when Trump is outlining how out of control the Iranian government is, right? Shooting down planes full of their own civilians, firing on their own civilians, and Trump points this out. We've got CEOs doubling down on just absolute Trump derangement syndrome, absolute insanity. This has no basis in reality. And it doesn't lay the blame where it needs to lay the blame. The blame lies with Iran. The blame lies with Iran allowing a terrorist to plan to use their resources to plan attacks against Americans. And if you want to go back to the inception of the Iranian conflict, here is the LA Times reporting. The LA Times. Defense contractor from California whose death sparked U.S.-Iran conflict is mourned. A U.S. defense contractor in Iraq, Hamid, was killed in December in a strike on an Iraqi military base where he worked as a linguist. His violent death triggered an escalation in the geopolitical struggle between Iran and the United States, belying the quiet life that he led at home in Sacramento and a temperament marked by gentleness. So this strike led to the airstrike. The airstrike led to the base attack. The base attack led to Soleimani. Soleimani led to the plane downing, and that's Trump's fault, according to Mr. McCain, who's, I often think of Scrooge McDuck diving into his money bin, right? Like, yay, thanks for that $28 million to invest in Canadians. right? But not those 300 Canadians, because they were getting in the way of consolidating the plants. Right, Michael? Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com and the Canada Report, or CanadaReport.co. I'm trying to keep it up to date, and yeah, I think probably the best way, if you want to be a contributor, is to have a beat you're interested in, either economics, international news. I'm working on Canadian politics. I've got miscellaneous. Yeah, so check it out. I think it's cool, and now the comments are working, so that's fun too. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful day.